Hello friends, we are here in John chapter 8. So this is kind of an interesting chapter to unpack. The conversation kind of winds around. I think the most interesting perspective that I have from this is that I read a book a long time ago called Seeking Allah and Finding Jesus. It was about this guy named Nabil Qureshi, and he basically was a devout Muslim. Always wanted to be a Muslim, had a good relationship with his family, and he started debating this guy who was a Christian about, the validity of both of their faiths. And so they became good friends, but they would always have this debate about the religion, and it was fun for them. Nabil was going to read the New Testament, and his friend was going to read the Quran. And then they would ask questions about it. So, when he got to the book of John, and I'm led to believe he got to this chapter, and he came up to his friend and he says, "The book of John doesn't count." And his friend says, "What do you mean?" And Nabil was going under the assumption that the Bible never had Jesus claiming to be God. That's a big part of the Islamic faith is that they believe that in the end Jesus will come out and say, "I never said I was God." But here Jesus is clearly over and over claiming to be God. And he's like, this can't be true because it's so devastating to my faith. Now, what's interesting about this is that he was also claiming there's parts of the Bible that are in there that weren't originally in the text. That's something that he used to debate Christians on before. And here is an example of where that's happening. The part in the beginning of this chapter has the story of the woman caught in adultery. Now, you'll notice if you're reading along, there's a footnote that says that this story isn't in the original texts. But in the conversation that Nabil had with his friend, he was saying, now, you have to look at this. And the Bible, every Bible that's written will have that little footnote. Even old Bibles from a long time ago will have this footnote saying, these are not in the original text, these verses. And so he's saying, what does that mean about the rest? What does that mean about the rest of this? It means that there is evidence that very early manuscripts do have the rest of the Bible. It's interesting because it actually proves the legitimacy of the scriptures. Because here you have ones that don't line up, and there's little footnotes saying these aren't in our earliest manuscripts, which means that we have manuscripts that are very early. So you can't make up stuff that happened because you have earlier manuscripts, and it makes it so that the words that we do have, we know them to be real. Anyway, Jesus is claiming to be God. In this section, he's saying he is the light of the world. Now, when he's doing this is at the Feast of Booths, and something that they would do in the temple around the time of the Feast of Booths is at nighttime they would light candles all over the place, inside and out, and the whole place was illuminated. It was something to see. They didn't light up things like that. Today we might light up like this building that's behind me. They light that up at night, but 2,000 years ago that was something special. That was something they didn't often do. And we don't know exactly when Jesus was saying these things, but he's addressing the lights. Now, the reason that they light up the temple around the Feast of Booths, because the Feast of Booths was to symbolize, it's to remember when they were in the desert for 40 years. And when they were in the desert for 40 years, there was a cloud by day that would glow, and then there would be a fire by night. And this was God really directing them on where to go and how to get through the, you know, the desert. And so he's addressing all of the light, and he's saying that light that you know, that's me, only I'm the light of the world. You know, if you follow my teachings, you can have eternal life. Later on in this chapter, he says something that is often quoted, often misunderstood when it's quoted, but he says, you know, when you follow me, you have the truth, and the truth shall set you free. You know, I can name a handful of movies that use that, you know, where they're trying to find, you know, there's some sort of mystery and they're trying to find the truth, and they're like, if we find the truth will set us free. But Jesus is talking about a very specific truth. You know, he's talking about himself. He's talking about his words. He's also talking about the fact, or he's addressing the fact that they are in slavery. And they're saying, we've never been in slavery. And he's saying, when basically the default for mankind, because we are born in sin and that we're sinful by nature, is that we are in slavery to sin. A commencement speech a long time ago where, I'm trying to remember the guy's name. Anyways, he did a commencement speech, and it was called "This is Water." And in the speech he said, everybody worships. You know, it's not just people of faith that worship. Everybody worships something. And that's true. But if you're worshiping anything other than Jesus, you're in sin. And if you are in sin, that means that you are in slavery to sin. Now, this slavery is something that you don't notice until you do, until you can find the words of Jesus where he's saying, you know, you guys are in slavery, and I can get you out of slavery. You know, if you follow me, you are no longer in bondage to this world, to the sins around you. So that's the truth that he's trying to set them free with. He's trying to set them free with the idea that they're in bondage. You know, there's more to it than that. You know, the words of Jesus will set you free. You know, Jesus is the truth. But you need to recognize first that you're in bondage. There's something he says at the end of the chapter, and I'll end with this. He says, before Abraham was, I am. You know, they were asking him if he was greater than Abraham. And he says, you know, before Abraham was, I am. He's saying that he eternally existed. You know, he's claiming his deity again by saying that. But he's saying more than that. You know, if you remember in the burning bush, back in Exodus, Moses says, who shall I say you are? You know, what is your name? And he says, you will call me I am. You know, he existed before names. He's outside of this idea that someone else would give you a name. He is this self-created creator. And so he says, I am the I am. And so when Jesus came and said, before Abraham was, I am, he was in a very profound way claiming his deity. And it wasn't missed on the audience. You know, a lot of sects, a lot of cults will claim that Jesus never claimed to be God. Not just Islam, but Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses. You know, it hinges on this idea that Jesus couldn't have been God, but it is so clearly stated here, if Jesus wasn't claiming to be God, then why did they pick up rocks to stone him? It was so clear that he was claiming to be God that the people were saying, we need to kill this guy for blaspheming. So that is John chapter 8. Have a great day. Bye.